Hey guys, how's it going? It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and for today's video, we're doing our first leader look in OP04, that leader being Queen. Now, Queen is the first leader with the blue-yellow color combination. It is a 4-lifer, and it has a very peculiar effect. If you haven't read Queen before, let me show you what it does. It says, Dawn ×1 when attacking. If your hand and life total is 4 or less, draw 1 card. Mediocre. But if you have a cost 8 or higher character on the board, you may place 1 card from the top of your deck on top of your life instead of drawing 1 card, which is really, really nice. So I have to condense that. If the total number of cards between my life and my hand are 4 or less, I can draw a card with Dawn ×1. Not terrible. I'm low on hand size, so I'm going to need that draw. But if you have an 8 cost or higher, that becomes a heal 1, which is really, really nice for the cost of 1. Healing 1 for 1 is really, really good. So what makes Queen so interesting? Now, this deck did take a couple of tournaments, and a couple is maybe over exaggerating, but it did take at least 1 tournament in the eastern side, and I think the deck had a lot of potential. It's a really interesting deck, and it's a pseudo control deck that has like a double stage built in, which is really, really cool. So let's talk about the deck list real quick, and then let's talk about the strategy right after. So we're playing 2 of the Mihawk, 4 of the Don Quixote do Flamingo blocker, 4 of the Boa Hancock, 4 Kaya, 1 Soggy King, 2 Kaido, 4 Sasaki, 2 Trafalgar Laws, 4 Boa Hancocks, 3 Katakuri, 4 Beji, 4 Sanji, 4 Yamato, 4 Brule, and 4 Red Rock. So at the end, it was just 4 city, baby. So let's talk about the new cards in OP04, because I think you guys are very familiar with the ones prior to that. So the new cards that we got is 10-drop Kaido. Now, what makes this 10-drop Kaido so good, in my opinion? He doesn't necessarily fit with this deck. Let's start off by that. This deck really enjoys the 9 zone because you can go ahead and 9-drop, get their very powerful effect, and then still have 1 Dawn for Queen's powerful effect. So usually we want to sit between 8 and 9 Dawn, but this Kaido is an exceptional beast. Unfortunately, we can't play Big Mama in this deck because we are not a Big Mom Pirates. There is that restriction, which is thank you, Bandai, for including that into your card creation, and continue to include that for the love of God moving forward. But that's not what we're here for. Kaido doesn't have that restriction, and because of that, we got to use him. He's big, he's beefy, he's fantastic. So what makes him so good that I have to make it unsynergistic with my deck? He is a 10 mana 12k, which is fantastic stats. We already know that when you can do a 10 mana 12k, that character is almost impossible to remove from the board unless you have like some sort of combination of cards that are very rare to see together, and basically Ace or some sort of weird red deck is the only one that can remove it, or they have a Red Rock. I mean, Red Rock is just a good card that we all have to know. And if your opponent's playing blue, they're playing some amount of this card. It is insane. But the other thing is the fact, so let's say they can't remove it, it's big, and it has a very powerful tempo effect. So Big Mom, you spend 10, you heal 1, and you pray that you're not, lethaled on the comeback, on the crackback, if you will. Kaido says, I am summoning a 12k, and it's going to be very hard to lethal me because I'm going to go ahead and bounce your board, so you're losing attackers. At the same time, this deck in general plays a ton of small blockers, so once I can go ahead and establish a Kaido, it's going to be very hard for my opponent to remove it unless they, they have the aforementioned cards that we went ahead and said. So very, very powerful card, and if I can get it to stick, my goodness, it's going to allow me to always have an 8 or higher character on the board for Queen's effect following that. Sasaki. Now, what is Sasaki? Sasaki is a magical mallet. If you've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh!, that card just basically says mulligan your hand on play, which is pretty darn good sometimes. Sometimes you're looking for an answer, you need an answer immediately. Maybe you're, chock full of like all these counters and blockers, but you haven't found an 8-drop, so your deck isn't really doing what it wants to do. Well, Sasaki says, mulligan that hand. Here's another chance at finding some of those big bodies in your hand. Then we're going to be playing 4 of the Capone Beji. Now, this Capone Beji, super cool card. It has a really weird trigger. It says, trigger up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters cannot attack during this turn. Now, that doesn't mean you get to do that effect and add it to your hand, because it doesn't say, and then after, add it to hand. So once you trigger that, it does go to trash, but it's a 2k, has a really cool effect. And if you do heal it off of Queen, it can lead to very shenanigan-y scenarios. Then we got Sanji. Sanji is a blocker out of life, very similar to Boa Hancock or to Brule, but this Sanji says trash a card, and it is a 5k. So he's Boa Hancock 4-drop stats that triggers out of life. It's a mix between maybe like these 2 cards and like the Big Mom trash effects. Really, really solid overall. Yamato, the linchpin of this deck. What really makes Queen come to life is this Yamato, which is weird because you don't think they'd be working together, but here they are. You got on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost that is equal to or less than the total life of you and your opponent combined. That's a lot of words. Then If you have 1 or less life, you may add 1 card from the top of your deck to your life. So just to sum it up or like kind of condense it, if there is, you know, depending on what the total life of you and your opponent is, you will go ahead and KO a card onto the board. Then if you have 1 or less, you get to recover 1. Really, really nice. Now, you don't get to recover and then add the cards and then pop. You pop before you do the heal. So let's say I'm at 0 life, which is the play that you'll see very often in Queen. I summon Yamato. I have 0 life. My opponent has 3 life. I can destroy a 3 or lower, so I can destroy like a Zoro, and I can heal 1. Then with my last Dawn, I will place it on Queen, swing for 6, heal another. So for a total of 10 Dawn, I'm healing twice and destroying a 3k and summoning a 9k. Nice. So this card is one of the really, really nice cards. Now, if the game is a little bit slower, let's say my opponent and I both have 3 cards in life, which is very, very rare. I can go ahead and summon Yamato to destroy a 6 cost or lower, which is like a Thatch. Yamato, 9 drop, summon a 9k, destroy an 8k attacker. Sounds great too. Really cool card. And the fact that the way you'll see it often is you'll go Yamato, Queen, heal 2. And that's really what it does more than anything. And lastly, but surely, we've got 4 of the Gum Gum Red Hawk, which just says, place 1 character at the bottom of his opponent's deck. Removes anything in the game for a cost of 6. I like it. Now, its trigger in life isn't very strong. It's a 4 or less. But who cares? This card is absolutely bananas. It does get to remove anything that you can't, right? This deck removes 7s, 8s, anything. It has a lot of like instant removal. So if your opponent isn't out-tempoing you by summoning multiple characters, they're going to be having a very tough time pushing through your board. And once we start healing our Boa Hancocks, our Brulés, our Veggies, our Sanjis, as you can see, almost every single trigger in this deck is a blocker and or an obnoxious card. We're going to be in for a bad time. The majority of this deck is really just blockers, 2Ks, and then big dudes. And that's what really makes Queen, shine. Now, talking towards the strategy of the deck really has 2 stages, in my opinion. Stage 1, Queen has 4 life. We're starting the game. Nothing's really going on. They're countering cards. They have more than 4 cards in their hand. They're kind of just chilling. They're summoning blockers, not really doing much. Then we get to the later portion of the game where now they have very little cards in hand. They're going bomb, heal, bomb, heal. And that really starts to get very, very grindy very, very quickly. So let's go ahead and see some of these games, see how Queen can match up. It's a deck that I'm really excited for, so hopefully I can go ahead and show you how cool this deck is, and see you there. Alright guys, so for our first game, I'm going to be showcasing Queen versus Monkey D. Luffy. Now, this is one of my first games with the Queen deck, so I think this is a really good one to show, so that I can go ahead and explain the vast amount of misplays that I go ahead and do. Now, the mulligan was fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The deck really just kind of doesn't do much for a lot of turns. I'm going to defend with my Sasaki here. Use my 2Ks when I can, not just lose life for free. I'm going to go ahead and hit my opponent for 5. So far, so good, right? This is exactly what the deck kind of wants to do. Now, my opponent opts to take the life, as most red players would for the first life. Then I'm going to go ahead and play my Sanji blocker. He attacks me for 5. I probably should opt to take this hit. I don't want to start giving up blockers, right? Because, again, the deck has a very specific way that it wants to play. He hits a Sanji blocker in my life, which is pretty good. I should give up the Soga King here because more than anything, the Soga King is on the... This is one of my first mistakes. So the Soga King is a 7 cost, which puts him on the odd curve. And the turn that I would be summoning him is a turn that I'm at 8 total Dawn. And it's not usually a turn that I would, opt to want to do that. I probably will end up going like Red Rock plus something else that turn. And the Doflamingo blocker is really, really important. Instead of just going 2 6s at the Luffy, I could have just gone a little harder at it and made my opponent discard a couple cards before summoning the Boa. Now, the reason I say that this is a misplay is because you want your blockers, to live in this matchup, specifically because of the fact that when you get to this late game, right, the board that you want is 4 blockers, right? You want to get to 0 life with 4 blockers, and then you just go bomb, heal, bomb, heal, bomb, heal. And it becomes really difficult, right, to use them. Now, this Kaido is going to be very stuck in my hand. I know I played 2 Kaidos in this deck, but the more I play this deck, the more I'm unsure if that's kind of where what the deck wants. It's not a bad card by any means, but we're definitely going to do a really good cleanup turn here. KO the Luffy, bottom deck that with the Red Rock. Drawing with the Boa, this is another mistake, right? Again, the board that I want is 4 blockers. That's the board I want to create at the start of this game. And unfortunately, by attacking with the Boa, you just kind of leave her susceptible to a play like this, right? And now, instead of having a real board, I just kind of have a Sanji. Fortunately, I am bailed out once again, and I do get to Red Rock this Nico Robin off of the board, so which is really, really solid. Now I'm at 10 Dawn. This play doesn't seem terrible, right? So I'm going to go 6 at the Luffy. 6 at the Luffy, and then heal the Sanji, right? So that's the best use of my Dawn at this point in time. Yeah, I get to remove 2 cards out of his hand with healing 1. That's probably the best use of that turn. He's going to go ahead and 5 me. I will give you 1 blocker, and that's perfectly fine. When he goes to 6, I'm probably going to have to take this 6. He plays the Luffy with Rush, hits me for 8. Big damage here. It's a big damage turn in general. I'm going to have to take this 8. I have no other option. Just reading, I think I was remembering what the Luffy did there. Now I'm going to have to take this, use the trigger effect, and I should 100% dump the Kaido here, but I opted not to. Then I have to take this hit. If not, I lose my Katakuri, which is really bad. But fortunately, I do have this Yamato. Yamato's going to go ahead and pop this Nami, heal me 1, and then I'm going to be able to go 6 here and gain a life, which is really, really solid. Now, if I'm able to go ahead and KO this Luffy, then I'm in a really solid spot. So I'll go 8 at life. And I should probably go Sanji at life too, because he's not going to be blocking, right? He's always going to be going on the offensive. My opponent goes ahead and drops a double Zoro with the Luffy on top, and then he goes ahead and attacks me for 6. Going to defend 7. I'm going to take and see what happens off the trigger. Another red rock, which is really, really good. And then I'm going to opt to take this life as well. Hopefully it's just another trigger. It's just a Kaido, so oh boy. And then right here with 2 cards in hand and 2 life, I most certainly have game. But I opt to go for like a long, to elongate the game, which this deck very much can do. I can attach everything to my Yamato and go at the Luffy, right? Which is, as long as I keep up 3, I've already attached 2. So yeah, I go 14 at it. Unless he has double 2k, he can't, save it, and then my opponent quits. Now off to game 2, we're going to be playing versus Katakuri. Now this matchup is a little interesting. This one will for sure boil down to the late game of the deck. They're going to be, Katakuri right now doesn't really do much in the early game. Its early game is very much dependent on its life. Sparrows coming out of life, Sanjis and things like that. They're not really playing anything like in the first 2 turns of the game. And then after which, they're mostly playing vanillas like Sparrow or Randolph, right? So once we understand that that's the game plan, we got to adjust accordingly for it. So I'm going to go ahead and pitch this Brule. I'm very okay with it. He does see the Sparrow, which is huge for him. I'm going to go ahead and declare an attack for 6. Then play a 3-drop of my own. Then I'm going to go ahead and decide to stack to the top right now. The reason we stack this to the top is mostly because we have a Yamato and we have a Mihawk, right? Very important cards in this matchup. So we're trying to decide how we want to go ahead and stack it. Obviously, we want to stack it in a way that we draw Yamato, play Yamato, and heal the Brule. And then I think I opt to put it in that fashion, right? He goes and attacks me for 5, and I'm just going to defend. I'm going to have to take a couple hits here, right, to go down to that threshold where everything is live. I'm going to use my trigger. That's the best possible trigger because it's a card that doesn't go to my hand and immediately goes onto the board. The blockers are exceptional in this deck, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my turn after he drops a Randolph, exactly as we expected him to do. He does. He lets the Sparrow go, which is fantastic for us, and then we can easily red rock this Randolph, and now all the pressure that my opponent had has been mitigated very heavily, right? So he's going to go ahead and attack me for 5. I'm going to go ahead and take this attack. Going to play the Mom. I'm going to go ahead and trash a life. Yep. And that just makes it a little bit easier for my deck. I had a Veggie in life. It's really good. I do have the Mihawk coming, which is very important for me to note. So this turn is going to be very simple. I'm just going to dump blocker. Or I can go ahead and do this. This also works. Right? I don't necessarily want to heal him the lives. I know that the Mihawk is there, so I probably should have kept the Katakuri for the Boa and then the Mihawk for the Mom, right? And I'm going to defend here a little aggressively just to get to the correct threshold. And he's going to go ahead and Katakuri my Katakuri. Okay. And he's going to burn it on the following turn. Now, Mihawk here, you see how the Mihawk now has nothing to target, and it feels really, really bad. Yeah, that was a mistake, right? So I have to opt to decide what I want to go and do with the rest of my turn. I mean, I just kind of have to deploy this Mihawk. If I don't deploy him now, he most certainly won't be doing much for the rest of the game. Going to attack my opponent for 6. Let's see if he takes it. He opts and combos for 2 because I'm again at the 5 life threshold. So it do be what it be. Now he's going to Mom, remove my Katakuri, hit me for 8. I believe I should take this hit knowing that next turn I have the Yamato, right? I do opt to combo, which is kind of wild, right? Because I could have just comboed this hit instead. I was just trying to do the math of how do I get to 4 cards in hand, and then if I had just taken that hit and then given him 1 there, it would have worked out just the same, right? And I don't really want to go to 0 cards in hand because then my deck is a little too predictable on what I'm doing. It's not very good. I'm going to go ahead and choose no targets. I'm going to attack 9 here and then 6 at lead. And heal for 2. So that's really solid. Being able to heal for 2 is fantastic. And we do have the Sanji that's going to be able, not the Sanji, the Flamingo, who's going to be able to stack the rest of my deck. And I'm able to figure out exactly how the following turns are going to happen in terms of healing. So I'm just going to have to mitigate a couple turns of getting mommed, please. Going to go ahead and pitch a Sanji. Then I'm going to have to take these hits, right? That mama is coming once again is what I'm fearing, right? And yep, he burns my boa, which is huge. Gonna opt to take this hit. Trigger, which is really, really nice. And then I can cycle a blocker here because I'm gonna be able to summon another blocker on my following turn. Now this Kaido, again, showing his ugly little face. Gonna go ahead and attach a bunch of Dawn, but I should have definitely played the Flamingo before I did this. Yeah, I even immediately noticed that that was a mistake. And then I'm gonna go ahead and hit the Katakuri for 10. See if he gives me 2 cards here. And that's exactly how I'm unfortunately going to have to play this matchup, is just abysmally slow. Right. And then I'm going to tap out because there's no reason in doing it in another way, right? So I could have done it in a way where I had certain blockers on top. You know, having Beji is okay. I'm opting to draw the Katakuri so I can heal a Brule or heal something and then go ahead and, you know, get another trigger in life as well, because that's the whole point. I'm just trying to trigger these blockers back into life and then protect my board using them as chump blockers, making them pseudo guard points, which is really, really nice, right? Because if this mom attacks my Yamato and I block with a Brule, that Brule got so much value. There's also a possibility where I could die this turn to a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is really, really strong this turn because I do have 3 blockers and he has 3 attacks and 1 life, right? So I opt to take this 7, but that's really, really bad because I should have just blocked, right? And unfortunately, if I had played the Flamingo blocker, I would have known that I would have stacked the blocker. I did get, you know, lucky there in doing so, but it is what it is. So he's going to go ahead and Thunderbolt me, and then I lose the game because 2 moms just go in for a game. Had I just made the correct block and then healed that, I could have unironically just super won, but now I have to concede my board. He made the mistake of not going for a game. I'm not sure why he did this. Surely there's a reason to this madness. Now I can't Katakuri my boa, unfortunately, so my whole turn just consists of me playing a boa and then healing a card and then trying to KO some of the moms. But there's very, very, very small chance that that happens, right? So I'm going to definitely 15 one of the moms. And then if he has double 2k, I'm in a very sad position. But it is what it is. This is the scenario that I've got myself into. Okay, solid. I'll go ahead and touch it down to Queen. I'll heal a life. And then I will play another Hancock. Pass the turn. So we're not dead yet because he has 2 hits unless he has another mom. And then if he has another mom, we can still... I mean, honestly, we can't combo out of it, funnily enough, because our hand is all bricks. But in usual scenarios, we're still alive, right? So he's going to go ahead and big number at the Mihawk, I'm assuming. Yeah, so that's going to be really, really rough. Mihawk's going to have to go down. I definitely should not block this, right? And then I'm going to be able to take this hit. And I should know that this is a blocker off the top of my life because of the Flamingo blocker, right? So this should trigger. And then I should be able to Katakuri hit my opponent for 7. And yeah, that's exactly what he needs to do. He just needs to summon dudes. And then I make a mistake here by not summoning the Katakuri first, which, funnily enough, might actually have won me the game. Because I'd have 2 lives here with 2 2Ks in hand, and it would have been heal a Beji, heal a blocker, which would have been really, really strong because it would have slowed him down enough to that I had 1 more turn, and then I just continue to amass my Queen army. But, you know, sometimes you make mistakes. It'd be like that. So my opponent's going to go ahead and attack me for 5. I should allow this to go through to summon the blocker. Could also combo out of it. This puts me in another Thunderbolt range, right? Thunderbolt can go ahead and do something weird here, but I'm thinking that he's going to go ahead and summon the mom Right, I think he's going to go 7, mom, 12, right? He opts to go 5. I defend the 5. Then he moms. I trash a card. Exactly, so. But now he just summons a big body. I'm going to go ahead and block with this. Draw for turn. I have Sanji, so it's going to be a turn where I'm going to Sanji, heal a card, hit him again. Like, unfortunately, I do have to probably take care of the 3k attacker because that's just another possible attack that he has. And I just don't really have a lot of combo power in my hand. There is also a world where, you know, he just has too many things that are coming at me next turn. I have to go ahead and defend myself as much as I possibly can. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I do it to give myself one more turn. As you can see here, I'm just calculating the donage. Attaching 4 seems excessive, right? So I should probably, yeah. I opt to ignore the Sanji, heal 1, short. He takes this life. Or does he, right? He did show that he's playing the arrow, which is kind of terrifying. Gonna go opt and hit him for 10. Put him to 0 so he can't thunderbolt me, I guess was my line and reasoning. So he's going to go ahead and arrow 2k, 1k. Yeah, so he can still thunderbolt me. Keeps the thunderbolt alive in doing so. And then I play a Sanji and pass. Oof, imagine this game had I had one more life. He goes 7 here, and 7 is the correct number because I cannot combo at a 7, man. Because I do have 2 cards in hand. One of them is a brick. I'm going to go ahead and trigger this Boa Hancock that I knew was there. So that's on the bright side. He's going to thunderbolt me probably, and then that's going to be wraps for the game, right? Because he has 3 attackers to my 3 blockers. It's going to go big. I block. He has 3 Dawn left. He knows I can't combo out of 7, so that Dawn usage seemed a little excessive. I'm going to block again. Block again. And then he's going to summon a blocker of his own. No? Oh? Do I win this game? I don't even remember. It's been a while since I played this. So I don't remember if I win this game. It's just going to be 11-11, right? 11, pray this is not a blocker off of life. It's like 11-12. Oh. Oh. I lose. He had a lot of combo power. It is what it is, but there was some nice moments in this game where I guess like you can go ahead and see exactly how powerful Queen is in the grind matchup. Had I played this game better and I didn't suck at One Piece, this would be a much better game, and I actually would have probably ended up coming out the victor. So this is another game where it showcases you, yeah, I make a ton of misplays, but the deck is very, very powerful, as you can see. When the engines are all rolling and you're playing correctly, this is a absolute monster. I concede, and my opponent wins the match. For our last game that we're going to go ahead and showcase, we're going to showcase Rebecca. Rebecca being one of the go-to decks, one of the highly anticipated decks of OP04. And we're just going to showcase exactly how Queen deals with this matchup, right? So I'm going to go ahead and... yeah, I'm going to play some dudes. Now, the only thing that kind of sucks about Law is a super good card, right? 1-drop blockers are fantastic. But especially versus Rebecca. Now, again, this is some of my earlier videos in OP04. I hadn't really played much of it up until this point. I didn't know exactly what decks can do. And let me tell you, 1-drops versus Rebecca are just not it because they have Leo, they have Kitos. They have exactly the correct outs for 1-drops. So... as strong as these laws are, they're really not long for this world. So he goes ahead and summons the Orlumbus. I'm going to draw a card. I'm going to continue to attack. Now, there are some matchups where it's funnily enough, Queen just doesn't attack because of the nature of it. I hit him and he 3,000 worlds my Law, which is a mistake in my opinion because you were going to Kitos it at some point. But now I guess we can Kitos something else. Goes ahead and attacks my Sanji for 5. Now, I'm going to go ahead and be able to defend this, I believe, pretty easily. Right, and now, unless he wants to attach Dawn, or here's the scary part of Rebecca, right? So he just goes ahead and plays like Colosseum here. And now, once he plays Colosseum, he can just, play Orlumbus effect, pop your Leo, play Kitos, pop my other Sanji, swing on my other Sanji, and then we're just in a terrible position, right? But my opponent makes the mistake of thinking that he does have the Colosseum, and I'm able to KO the Orlumbus and the Luffy in the same turn, and then that's like a really, really big tempo swing for me. My opponent goes ahead and summons another Orlumbus, just a bananas card. Gonna go pop the Yachts and then summon Kitos. It's the exact play that I was talking about last turn. Just if he had the Colosseum, we were really done for, right? So it goes back to my turn. I get to just casually play a Kaido for the first time. Gotta get this guy out of my hand somehow, and he becomes basically immortal. And then I don't like attacking with 5Ks, but this is Rebecca, and Rebecca can't really apply the pressure without the Colosseum, so I actually don't mind swinging with my Sanjis or my blockers in general against the Rebecca matchup. I actually do recommend that you do probably attack with them. Goes ahead and plays Rebecca, which finds another Luffy, and then Luffy's a powerful card, but without the Colosseum, he's just not strong enough in my opinion. He goes ahead and plays Kitos for no value, and then a Sabo. Now, Sabo is a really obnoxious card. Usually a combo piece in Rebecca. It's a card that you want to summon towards the late game and you want to combo it off with another blocker. Against the blue-yellow color, it doesn't really matter too much because I'm not going to be KOing anything. But yeah, that card is absurd. It's my turn now. I'm going to go ahead and I should probably here, now coming from a standing point of like understanding the deck a little bit more, I probably want to just go blocker, blocker, big hit, and just go hard versus my opponent, right? Just go hit him for 9 and play 2 blockers. Oh, I make this play. Look at me go, dude. Awesome. I think that's the best possible play this turn. I want to keep the Mihawk for the Luffy. And my opponent finally finds the Colosseum here. Unfortunately, he can't go Luffy Gum Gum on the Colosseum, so he's going to go and 1,000 Worlds me. Very good. It's going to remove one of my blockers, but it's not necessarily good enough, right? I just have a lot of tempo on my side. And he's going to have to start attacking me at some point. But if he keeps me at 4 life, I can't necessarily use my Queen's effect. So he's going to go ahead and attack me. I'm going to surely take that attack, because I need that to start cycling through the rest of my deck, right? He's going to hit me for another 5. I'm going to take it again. I'm not going to use Veggie's effect right now. And yeah, now I have Yamato, which I can go ahead and summon and KO a card. But it just doesn't feel good enough. I want to get the double effect of Yamato. I'm going to go ahead and bottom deck the Kyros. Gonna go ahead and just swing at Rebecca for 6. Even though she does have like the Rebecca tapped and I can go ahead and KO it, it's just not a real card. And if he wants to attach it on to make that card a viable play, then he's more than welcome to do so, right? So I'm gonna let that card stay on the board. I only remove Rebecca off the board if my opponent has like Orlumbuses or something along that line. But Orlumbus isn't really going to do much here. He's going to need quite the combos to reduce my Kaido and my Mihawk to become in the range of KO ability. So my opponent's going to go ahead and 3,000 Worlds one of my blockers. That's perfectly fine. I'll find more. Don't you worry, buddy. And then he still has 6 Dawn available. Going to use Rebecca's effect. Rebecca's going to go ahead and find him a Gum Gum King Kong gun. So I know that the gas is coming. He's going to go ahead and use the gun. I'm going to just remove 2 cards out of my hand because the more that I have, the more time I have, the better, right? Because if I do take those 2 lives, I'm not able to like heal with my Queen correctly. So I do just have quite some time. I'm just going to go ahead and hit 9, 12. And these big bodies are really just going to do God's work. And then I 12 them again. I still leave up space for a Boa Hancock, but that's going to be it. So we're back with the deck, and let me tell you, Queen's looking mighty clean. Yeah, the leader is pretty darn solid. Once you start getting a couple reps and a couple games with this deck and you stop making silly mistakes, this leader is an absolute powerhouse. The fact that you just have big dummies just coming down turn after turn after turn is really, really good. You got the bangers. You got 2 Mihawk, you got 4 Katakuri, you got 4 Yamato, you got 2 Kaidos. You really just have bomb after bomb after bomb. If the game really drags on, you're playing versus these slower decks like Rebecca, Vivi, and Crocodile, you do get to just play a war of attrition, and theoretically you win that war of attrition over time. Even the yellow decks might end up suffering because you just play such a long game. It's crazy. And there are some scenarios where you can just go to like 12 life throughout the course of a game just because of the fact that the game goes so long that you can queen in combination with Yamato, that eventually you just go back to full health. It's absolutely insane. The triggered blockers, the triggered veggies, all these very powerful triggers that just have like very solid effects are fantastic for the deck, because there's a high probability that you will just life one of them even without using the Doflamingo. That's one thing that I noted, that after playing a lot more games with the deck, this is a card that you really want to utilize in combination towards the late game instead of just kind of throwing it out in the early game. This is more of a combo starter, a combo setter, than it is just an early game blocker, right? If your hand is truly atrocious, right, you mulligan, you have nothing to play, surely if you have multiple flamingos, you can play one, but definitely try considering leaving him for the later stages of the game where you can go ahead and set up exactly what you want in life. Again, just like I said in the beginning, this is a 2-stage leader. The leader with 4 health is stage 1. Once the leader gets to like 1 health, we're in stage 2. And we've hit the late game. And I think Queen in the late game, looking kind of good, man. I know that the deck is doing a lot better now. I think that they're seeing a lot of result in OP5 in Japan as of September. So the slower the game gets, the stronger the Queen becomes. So definitely a deck to pick up, a deck to consider, a deck to look out for. Yeah, there's not. I really can't speak much more about the deck. Now, looking at this particular list, the only thing I would change, or the flex spots in my opinion, would have to be the boas, the amount of boas, Sogeking, Kaidos, and Law, right? These are the cards that really stick out to me as a little bit weird. I wouldn't change the ratios on the top end. I think, maybe you can drop 1 Katakuri, but that's really about it. You don't really want to go too low on top end. You could play that, remove that Katakuri for a Kaido, but I just like the 9 and 8 spot better because it lets you to utilize your leader pretty darn well. The more Kaidos you play, he gets a little bit clunkier, but if you're able to play Kaido with a lot of life, that's also insanely good because you can go Kaido, and then you can get low, and then start going Yamato after that, because this card is Red Rock or bust, basically. But the amount of 2K counters felt really good. Playing all of the blockers that come out of life felt fantastic, and Veggie, what a Chad, man. So, besides that, guys, I reckon give this deck a whirl, test it out, have some fun with it. Fun might not be the right term because this is like an actual like sit down, grind, try hard, sweaty deck. But yeah, give it a shot. As always, guys, if you like this sort of content, make sure to hit that like button. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything you want to talk about, the weather maybe, leave a comment section and we'll talk about it. And as always, if you like this sort of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button so we can keep hitting you with that more OP TCG content moving forward for OP04 and beyond.